Sirius XM's Volume presents the Trunk Top 20.
Exactly what I need. I'm very curious to hear what your comments are.
Man, I've just got to say, this is something that I've been waiting for.
Eddie's counting down his top 20 songs from some of your favorite artists.
Man, I got a lot to chew on here.
It's the Trunk Top 20 on Sirius XM's Trunk Nation.
Amazing.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of Trunk Nation here on Sirius XM 106 Volume, where we talk rock daily, live 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, replaying every night 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, and always available on demand on the Sirius XM app. Why is it a special edition of Trunk Nation? Well, because it is the third ever Trunk Top 20. Something I started, Ed Robinson, what was it, 6-8 months ago? We did the very first one 6 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, I believe Aerosmith was the end of last year.
So that would put us right around 5-6 months ago.
Yeah.
Where I had the brainstorm of doing what I decided to call the Trunk Top 20. I realized when I did that metal show all those years, people loved when we did that top 5 segment. So why not expand it a little bit and talk about the top songs from a favorite artist? The first one we ever did was Aerosmith, which was a lot of fun. The more recent one we did, the second one ever, was Kiss. Needless to say, everybody dug into that one. And I think this one could potentially be the biggest one yet, because it is a much-loved band that, as we talk about so often, unfortunately, is also incredibly, incredibly underactive, if you will. Just in the last 20 years, have not done a whole lot and have not put out a whole lot of music, to say the least. And this is the 40th anniversary of this band, who so far have announced absolutely nothing to celebrate that anniversary. But we are going to do it on Trunk Nation with this latest Trunk Top 20 featuring, yes, Van Halen. And you know the drill by now. If you don't, I'll fill you in once again. Over the course of the next 2 hours, you are going to hear my personal top 20 on Van Halen, in order, starting at 20, working my way to the number 1, which is the ultimate Van Halen song. Then tomorrow, I am live, and I will bring you the recap show and the reaction show, where you and many others will have a chance to call in and dissect what you're about to hear, tell me what should have been on my list, what shouldn't have been on my list, and maybe even run off some of your own favorite Van Halen songs or your own lists. So that'll be live on tomorrow's show starting at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then we have a free-for-all Friday, which likely will, something tells me, have a little overspill on more Van Halen talk in that show as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun here. And as I say, there's no right or wrong answers. We just have a good time with this stuff. And this is something that we do as fans. And we would be doing, and I do with my friends, sitting around having a beer. So why not do it with you guys on the radio? Here's the deal. Like all the Trunk Top 20s, all eras of the band are included in the 20-song umbrella. So when we did Kiss, we did 80s, we did 70s, we did 90s, non-original, didn't matter, all in that 20 umbrella. Same here with Van Halen. The Hagar stuff, the Roth stuff, the Sharon album, if you want to include that, all of that is mixed in your 20. They cannot be broken out separately. Also, the one thing that we decided on with Van Halen when we were working through this was that if there is an intro piece to a song, say, for instance, you had Little Guitars on your list, you don't have to put the intro piece to Little Guitars as its own thing. We're also allowing Eruption to be a part of You Really Got Me as one. You don't have to break those out separately should you decide to include those. Van Halen had 3-4 times where there's these little instrumental pieces that had their own name that start songs. That does not have to be a standalone song. You can include that as one with the song it's going into. So that's the only sort of exception we made to the usual ground rules on this Trunk Top 20 dealing with Van Halen. The really fascinating thing here, I of course know what my list is, I'm about to give it to you, but the really fascinating thing when we get into tomorrow is going to be, with this band in particular, how many people are Hagar heavy, how many people are Roth heavy, how many people include a little of both, how many people just include all of one. And that's going to, I think, really be telling too, based on how old you are, when you first discovered the band, what you first connected to with Van Halen. And it was definitely an issue for me. I have said many times, I love the Hagar era. I love the Roth era. I look at them as two different bands, but for the purposes of doing this top 20, we have to combine them. And that is exactly what I did. So I'm going to start at 20, as we always do, and work our way to number 1. Don't let the way this starts out fool you. I'll leave it as that.
Oh.
But you'll get a sense of where we're going eventually and how this is all going to break out with my list as we begin. So, without further ado, let us begin where we always do on the top 20s at number 20. And this song comes from the Sammy Hagar years. It comes from what really to date is the last proper Van Halen studio album. What I mean by that is new original material. The last album, A Different Kind of Truth, as we all found out, had a lot of material that Van Halen had done very, very early in their career that they re-recorded or recorded properly for the first time. The last really proper, newly conceived Van Halen album was the Balance album, which I think came out around 95. It was the Sammy Hagar Swan Song album. In a lot of ways, I think it's a pretty underrated and overlooked album in Van Halen's career. It was produced by the late Bruce Fairbairn, who sonically, this is an amazing sounding record, I think. And this is my lone representative track from that album. It was the album's first single, and it's called Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. At number 20 from Balance, Ed, give us a little bit of this one. Love this part. I thought it was going back into the next chorus. So here's the deal. That song was originally called Don't Tell Me What Love Can't Do, meaning a very inspirational, positive song, and it was changed to become something much darker in title alone, Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do, changing the tone of it completely. I like that. Van Halen getting dark, I like that. Sammy Hagar's vocals, as usual, incredible. Great production. It's dark. It's chunky. It's got a great hook. And it's got that great soaring Sammy Hagar chorus of really one of the great singers. And I always loved that song. I thought it was, it's kind of like the forgotten Van Halen single because it was the first single from that record. It didn't do tremendously well, but there was a video and stuff for it, and I just always thought that was a cool song. A little darker, chunky, heavy, that great soaring Sammy Hagar voice. From Balance, Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do, at number 20 to kick off the Van Halen Trunk Top 20. We continue at number 19, staying in the Hagar years for what is neck and neck between 5150 and For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, my two favorite Hagar era Van Halen records. The For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album is also a great sounding record. As I said, right there neck and neck with 5150 for me as my favorite of the Hagar era. And I have a couple songs from this record represented on my list. This one more of a deep track, more of an album track, but a heavy tune, and I love it. It's Judgment Day. Ed, hit it. Great sound. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Andy Johns worked on that record. He did, along with Ted Templeman. So you had a real dream team of production. The late Andy Johns, the legendary Ted Templeman, who worked on the early Roth Van Halen records. And if you, interestingly enough, if you read Greg Renoff's book, Van Halen Rising, Ted Templeman actually wanted to replace David Lee Roth with Sammy Hagar when he was making the first Van Halen album back in 78, which is a crazy story. But anyway, Ted Templeman working with Sammy Hagar in Van Halen on For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, that great bottom end sound, so synonymous with Andy Johns, who got just great drum sounds, maybe Alex's best drum sound on that record, the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge record, and Judgment Day. And, you know, I was a fan of Sammy Hagar's long before he joined Van Halen. So I was thrilled when he came in the band. I was thrilled with what he was bringing to the band. I was thrilled to have a caliber singer like that in Van Halen. To me, it opened it up and became a whole different group with Sammy Hagar in there and what he could do vocally. And this is just a couple of the signatures of Sammy in his time in the band. Speaking of, as we now go to number 18 on the Trunk Top 20 on Van Halen, when you want to talk about singing, again, we go to the Sammy Hagar era.
Oh, a pattern.
Yeah. Again, everybody relax. You know, I can feel grumblings already across the airways. People trying to, well, what's this guy doing? What's he going to do? Oh, Hagar list. Oh, calm down. Calm down. There's something going on here. You'll figure it out. Got a long way to go. But at number 18, I love a good power ballad. I love and always have loved Sammy Hagar's incredibly powerful voice. And there's few people that sound better singing over great melodic music and just singing into the stratosphere than Sammy Hagar sounds. Just brilliant. My lone representation from the OU 812 album, which as a whole, I don't love because some of it just got a little weird, just not as chunky sounding. But for this track, it worked brilliantly. The production, the sound, the singing, the hook became a huge hit for the band, a huge video as well. You know it, you love it. When It's Love. Ed, remind everybody about this one.
Oh, one of the greatest power ballads of all time.
Let's do it. See, that's insane. His voice is insane. Let him go again, Sammy. I mean, just, again, for my money, Sammy gets a lot of accolades for his voice, I think, but not enough. I don't think it's enough. I mean, the guy is just remarkable. And what's crazy is at 70, he can still pretty much, still kind of closely do that, which is insane. But you see a lot of the sound in that song permeated throughout OU 812, that keyboard sound, the production of the time. To me, on a lot of songs, it doesn't hold up so well. On that song, it does. And Sammy's voice just soaring into the stratosphere on those choruses. And then, of course, you have what's always been one of the signatures of great Van Halen music, and that is the great harmonies, the great choruses, much of it from, again, tragically underrated as a singer and player, in my opinion, the great Michael Anthony. Michael and Sammy singing together on those choruses with, of course, Eddie mixed in there as well is just pure magic. Took Van Halen to a whole different level melodically. When It's Love from OU 812, which, of course, was the second Hagar Van Halen album, at number 18. As we move up the list on the Trunk Top 20 for Van Halen, we go to number 17. When you think of soaring vocals, no song personifies that more for me in the Van Halen catalog than this next one. Impossibly high vocals in this chorus. I don't know if Sammy himself can even sing this one in this original register. Maybe, I don't know. I know that when he does it with his own band these days, they do it in sort of a stripped down acoustic way, which I'm sure helps him out a little bit. But this was death-defying stuff at the time I first heard it. From Sammy Hagar's first album with Van Halen, 5150, the number 17 Van Halen song of all time in my book is Dreams. Ed, remind everybody about this one and try to give us that chorus from Hell.
Gladly.
Great lead break. But what about the part, Ed, can you give us a little part? Hi, I can't, that's the craziness.
Don't try and impersonate Sammy Hagar. Give me a second.
No, you got to get to the hi. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. I love Sammy, but I even he might tell you that one might be a ball buster for him at this point. I'm sure it was for him back then. That's just, it's crazy. Everybody's heard it, but it'll be fun to hear it right now just because we're doing the top 20. And remember the video for that, if you remember, the band wasn't even in it.
Oh, yeah.
Bunch of fighter jets flying around.
It was the Blue Angels, Eddie.
We kind of that was one of those moments like the band's not available, doesn't want to bother doing a video, so I will just cobble together a bunch of footage and put the music to it.
Here, Eddie,
it worked.
Here's what you were looking for.
Listen to this. This is amazing. Unfortunately, we can only play so much of the music on this channel. In full disclosure, because I would love to get more into the songs, but there's restrictions on how much music we can play, being this is a talk channel. So we're giving you snippets to get you the idea and get your get your memories going a little bit. But it's remarkable, and I gotta laugh because over the years people have said to me, like, with a straight face, why do you think that the Roth Van Halen never did any Hagar songs? Just like, what? And as you're about to see very soon, trust me, I love my David Lee Roth Van Halen. And I mean it with all respect, but exactly who in the Roth lineup of Van Halen is singing that?
Wait, you mean when they got back together with Roth, why did DLR never do any Sammy?
Yeah. I mean, what? You really need an explanation for that? Just listen. My Lord, because, when Sammy was in the band, they did a few Roth songs. Of course, he can sing Roth. Who the hell can sing like that? So Dreams from 5150, the first album with Sammy Hagar on vocals, number 17 on the Trunk Top 20 Van Halen list. Yes, it gets intriguing now. Trust me, I understand. Again, I feel the grumbling. But relax, we're going to number 1. We still got plenty of time. So let's take our first break. We'll come back just to run it back for you in case you missed anything. We're all in the Hagar zone right now. Everything has been Hagar so far on my top 20. At 20, Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do from Balance. At 19, Judgment Day from 4, Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. At 18, When It's Love from OU812. At 17, Dreams from 5150. We have taken a little something to start off the Trunk Top 20 on Van Halen. One from every Hagar album opens my list. I didn't even realize that was the case till just now. Where do we go from here? Well, we'll go to number 16 right after this.
So baby, dry your eyes, save all the tears you've cried. Oh, that's what dreams are made of. Oh, baby, we belong to a world that must be strong. Oh, that's what dreams are made of.
The Trunk Top 20. Eddie picks an artist and compiles his ultimate playlist. More after this. This is the Trunk Top 20.
Eddie Trunk back with you. It is the Trunk Top 20 edition, number 3. This one focused on Van Halen as I count down my 20 favorite Van Halen songs in order. Working our way to number 1. Again, tomorrow is your chance to weigh in on my list. Make your own lists, whatever the case may be. The reaction show live, 2 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow for Trunk Nation. I'll be broadcasting live from Tulsa at the Hard Rock as I get ready for Rocklahoma, but I'll be looking forward to taking your calls and working in some of our celebrity friends and their top 20 lists as well when it comes to the much-loved Van Halen. So far on my list, I have lived in the Hagar zone with Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do at 20, Judgment Day at 19, When It's Love at 18, Dreams at 17. I am staying still in the Hagar zone at number 16. And I'm going back to the 4 Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album, where Eddie Van Halen introduced a drill on a guitar to open the song. Something that others have done. Paul Gilbert, if I'm not mistaken, from Racer X may have done this before as well. But this song to me, which I believe was the first single from 4 Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, is just a big, open, badass, kick-ass rock song, heavy rock song. It really is. And again, you got these big open spaces for Sammy Hagar to just wail over the top of. This album, for me, sonically, sounds amazing still to this day. The late Andy Johns, as I mentioned, and Ted Templeman working together, sort of a Van Halen dream team, in my opinion. And I'm talking, of course, about the song Pound Cake. Ed, give us a little slice, if you will.
Now, wait, do you want the chorus, or should we go with the drill?
Everybody knows the drill. I think we got to get right into the meat of it. So give us a little, anywhere somewhere in the middle should be fine.
Don't bore us, get to the chorus.
Go ahead, man. I love that little squeaky Van Halen guitar lick in there. Again, man, I'm going on and on about it, but anybody that knows me knows how much I love great vocals. And those are just great vocals. You can't say enough for what the guy brought to Van Halen. I understand some like it, some don't like it. I understand that a lot of people liked it because it was amazingly successful, but there are the purists that don't. But you cannot deny that what Sammy Hagar, when he came in, what he brought to that band, it was a whole different dynamic. It was, in a lot of ways, a completely different band. equally, kind of equally as good, but just so different from what the band originally was. But all the different dynamics that came in, and a guy that could sing like that, and then you could introduce keyboards and you could do ballads and you could do that heavy rock. I mean, most people know this, but the guys in Van Halen grew up worshiping Montrose, which of course was Sammy Hagar's first band. So to me, something like Pound Cake really harkens back to Montrose in its enormity, in the sound of it, in Sammy's vocal. Everything about it, to me, is very sort of Montrose-esque. There were times when Sammy was in Van Halen where I saw Eddie Van Halen go into a little bit of Make It Last by Montrose, a little tip of the hat to that tremendous band. And to me, Pound Cake is similar to that, is a little nod to Montrose. To me, I think a lot of it is in the drum pocket to that song. And that's maybe one of the reasons why I like it so much, because that first Montrose album is one of the great albums of all time. So Pound Cake from FUCK, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, at number 16 on the Trunk Top 20 Van Halen list. Now we get into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into this the second quarter. Yeah,
let's
start to enter into the second quarter.
Yep.
Number 15. Again, everybody calm down. You're going to figure this out at the end when we're all done. But yes, we're still in Sammy Hagar zone.
Really?
At number 15. So this makes 6 in a row, which makes a little over a quarter of my list, no matter what happens the rest of the way, dedicated to Hagar, Van Hagar. And again, going back to what I said previously already in this show, love my power ballads, especially when they're well done with tremendous lead vocals. This checks all the boxes. One of my absolute, well, as you're about to find out when this show's over, if you break it all out, my favorite Hagar Van Halen song, but you'll figure out why I'm saying that in a bit. 5150 again. And we go to that first album with Sammy Hagar on vocals. Another big hit single from that record. Again, it's redundant, but tremendous lead vocals. And I'm talking about Love Walks In. One of the times where I thought the keyboards just worked brilliantly against the guitar. The song itself is great. The vocal, needless to say, stellar. Just stellar. And then you've got the big sing-along at the end. Michael Anthony on the court. Just tremendous. Ed, a little bit of Love Walks In, please. It's killing me that we got to fade this. Killing me. There's a part just before the guitar break where Sammy goes, "Love comes walking in." Like his voice goes, it's killer. And then it just cuts to the guitar break. Magical stuff. I wish I could play more of it, but you know the song. How could you not? Huge hit as well from the first album. And it just signaled, if you were a Van Halen fan, I mean, 5150 signaled the changing of the guard right out of the gate. With the way the record opens with Sammy yelling, "Hello, baby," into Good Enough, which, again, I almost put on my list. I'll never forget hearing Why Can't This Be Love? I mean, as far as a pop hard rock song, brilliant. Probably not going to show up on my list, I can tell you. But it was a tough cut. It was a tough out for that one. So the first 6 songs on my top 20, all Hagar. Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do, Judgment Day, When It's Love, Dreams, Pound Cake, and as you just heard, Love Walks In. And now, at number 14, we get into the Roth zone.
Oh, here we go.
There were probably some people out there, I could just hear people already, because he's friends with Sammy Hagar, he's going to do a whole top 20 and Sammy. So.
Well, no,
guys.
I was wondering if it was going to be, 20 to 11 Sammy and then the top 10 DLR.
No, anybody that knows me knows that I tell it straight how I feel. And, it is what it is. I don't let personal stuff get in the way of being a fan. I love Sammy, love Michael. Great friends, but we just gave you 6 in a row from Hagar. Now we go to what was a radically different band and just as absolutely brilliant and incredible, and that is the original lineup of Van Halen. And we begin at number 14 with what, outside of the first album, I would probably have to say is my favorite Van Halen album. That is the third album from Van Halen that came out in 1980, Women and Children First. You know how a record is great? Not only does it stand the test of time, but you can remember the exact circumstances surrounding getting it. And I remember like it was yesterday getting Women and Children First on cassette, I want to say, because I was not driving yet. I was 15. My mom took me to a dentist appointment that I didn't want to go to. Who would want to go to a dentist appointment? And she said, just go, get through it, and I'll take you to the record store to let you pick something out that you want. So I remember having the ache of a cavity that had just been filled at the dentist, the Novocaine gradually wearing off as I went to Scotty's Records in Madison, New Jersey. And I purchased, or my mom purchased for me, my selection that day, which was Women and Children First by Van Halen. And I remember ripping the cellophane off. Could have been an 8-track, probably a cassette at that time. Getting in the car with my teeth still throbbing and putting that cassette in and turning up the volume, much to my mom's chagrin. And that is how vividly I remember getting Women and Children First.
You know what? The cavity was worth it.
It was worth it. And here I am 38 years later remembering the cavity, remembering the circumstances to getting this great, great record. Our first entry from Women and Children is, as classic Roth VH as it gets. A song that also appeared in a movie, the name of which escapes me at the moment. I believe it involved a dancing French fry. Everybody Wants Some. Ed, give us a little bit, please.
Gladly.
No. Don't take them off. Leave them on.
Listen to that guitar. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's it. A little more to the right.
Oh.
Everybody wants some. I want some too. Oh. Everybody wants some. Baby, how about you?
Killing me that you got to turn it off. sticking daggers in me head.
What is the sum that everybody wants?
God, more of that. Here's what I want. I want a band to come out half as good as that in 2018 and blow everybody's doors off with songs like that. Man, just everything great about Van Halen in that. The tribal drum beat, the gargantuan ringing guitar lick just coming out. You never know where it's coming at you. Just, the circus environment, the ringleader there, David Lee Roth, just, you could just feel the guy at a party swinging from a bottle of champagne while he's singing that.
I always loved when he would do those little spoken word interludes during the bridge.
And then there's, of course, the end of that song at the very, very end, which just as it clips off, where he says,
Yep.
I'll pay you for it. What the fuck? I'll pay you for it.
I had radio programmers tell me you better get out of that song before he says that.
Oh, so great. I'll pay you for it. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Best. Everybody wants some from Women and Children First. Our first entry into Roth Van Halen here on the Trunk Top 20 Van Halen show. And yes, I know you're screaming at your radios, agreeing, disagreeing, wondering about this, that. So many more here still to reveal. And again, tomorrow it's your turn, you guys. Fear not. Fear not. Tomorrow it is your turn for your lists and your dissection of what I'm doing right now. So you'll have your opportunity. All right, Ed, do you want another one here or do you want a break?
Let's do one more quickly.
Okay. For the first time at number 13, we pay visit to the record that we will pay a visit to many, many, many times, something tells me, as we work our way to number 1. Because it is the debut album from Van Halen. It is the Game Changer album, one of the great Game Changer albums of all time. I can honestly say I got this record when it came out. I was on the Van Halen bandwagon from day one. One of the reasons why, and this may sound ridiculous to some now, but you have to put yourself in my head at the time of being a 13-year-old kid, because that's what I was when the first Van Halen album came out. And I was such a psychotic Kiss fan for the previous couple years when I discovered rock music that anything related to or associated or loosely associated to Kiss I needed to know about. And how I found out about Van Halen was because I had heard correctly that Gene Simmons had played a role in their earliest career. And I got the first Van Halen album through the Columbia House Record Club, when you could pay a penny and get 10 records and then be on the hook to buy however many more. So I enrolled in that, and one of the selections I purchased in 1978 was the first Van Halen record. So when I got that and I turned it over and looked, sure enough, the first name under the thank yous was Gene Simmons. So I was like, whoa, because even back then I was a geek reading liner notes. So I was like, whoa, he really was involved with this band. They can't be bad. And of course they weren't. And how Gene ever let this one get away, man, God knows. For all his self-proclaimed brilliance, he should have had this band locked up in every way possible back in 1978. Anyway, the first entry, and we'll be hearing more from Van Halen 1, trust me, but the first time a song from VH1 comes onto the Trunk Top 20, it's at number 13. What I love about this one is it's not a ballad, but it's not one of the balls-out boogie rockers that Van Halen would be known for. It sits somewhere in the middle. It's Little Dreamer, the killer opening riff. Ed, take this from the top. This riff is just... what a groove. I love Little Dreamer because it's a little bit of a different vibe than the rest of the record. It's got a different groove. It's got a different tempo. And then again, the trademark, the greatness of Michael Anthony with those high backing vocals. Little Dreamer is a deep track from VH1. Always was one of my favorite songs. I think it's a very underrated song from that record, if there can be such a thing in what is pretty much nearly a perfect record. Little Dreamer at 13, first time the first Van Halen record shows up in the Trunk Top 20, and the second of the Roth era songs. So where do we go from here? Well, first thing we're going to do is take a break, and then we'll go to number 12. You just got 6 Hagar. You just got 2 Roth. Where do we go the rest of the way? How does this all shake out? How does the balance continue? Where do we go? What do we do? What do we say? What do we play? Fascinating to ponder. I'm so ridiculous. All right, break, and we'll come back and we'll continue with number 12 on the Trunk Top 20 Van Halen next.
Trunk Top 20. Eddie picks an artist and compiles his ultimate playlist. More after this.
The British Invasion. Motown. Surf music.
Surfing USA.
The Summer of Love. The 60s, a decade of change. A decade of unforgettable music. All 60s hits. Sirius XM 60s on 6.
Also streaming on your phone and on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers.
This is the Trunk Top 20.
Welcome back, Eddie Trunk Top 20, Van Halen. As we continue to count them down, my top 20 songs from Van Halen. And we are at number 12. And, man, I'll tell you, what are we going to do with number 12? It gets tough. This list was not easy because there are so many great Van Halen songs, especially when you combine the eras. But we are going to go to Van Halen 2. An album that is pretty darn close to being as great as its debut, but just a shy not as great in my opinion, but there are some amazing moments on it. And one of them is a song that just totally captures, again, the whole Roth, rebellious sort of vibe. I mean, one of the things you think about Van Halen with that early material is the lyrics, which, and the message they sent, just like the rebellious party rockers, DOA, Dead or Alive, personified that. And what a great big open, that massive guitar, and then right into the riff, and again, the killer chorus. So, Ed, if you can give us Dead or Alive, again, just because the open is so massive, and just let it go right into the groove and the riff, that would be awesome. At number 12, DOA, Dead or Alive, Van Halen 2. Ugh. Here comes the drums. I defy you to not play the air drums when they come in on the open of that song.
We was broken hungry on a summer day.
So great. And then, of course, it speeds up. The time goes faster at the end. We don't have to play it. I'll just sing it for everybody. I think everybody would like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, though. Any self-respecting Van Halen fan knows the brilliance of that. And it speeds up and just killer song, killer giant riff, and just the lyrics, the message, everything. Dead or alive, killer. Van Halen 2 DOA in the 12 hole on the Trunk Top 20. And now we stay in the Roth zone again and go to number 11. And we go back to Women and Children First, which I said earlier may be my second favorite Van Halen album of all time. The Dentist Cavity Record, as I remember it. And a song that the good folks at Ultimate Classic Rock said, if it was not included in my top 20, what were they going to do, Ed? They were going to revolt. They were going to riot. They were going to do something. But my friends at Ultimate Classic Rock, fear not, because Romeo Delight is indeed in the Trunk Top 20 Van Halen songs. A song that opened Van Halen shows at one point. Coming in to close out the first half of the list at number 11. Ed, let it rip. You fade the lead break, Ed Robinson. Curse you to hell.
Jeez, man.
What are you doing? Listen to that, for Christ's sakes.
I know. I have rules to follow.
Oh, damn the rules. Fight the man. And who could ever forget opening? They opened with that at Us Festival. And David, I forgot the fucking lyrics, man. Drunk off his ass. Didn't sing 3/4 of the song. Ah, the greatness of Romeo Delight, the greatness of Women and Children First, the greatness of Van Halen, number 11, closing out the first half of the Trunk Top 20 on VH. But fear not, 10 more to go. What will the top 10 be? Find out next on Trunk Nation.
Rediscover the sounds of the 90s. Not those sounds. Today. Sirius XM's Lithium. Commercial-free 90s alternative and grunge. Sounds as twisted as an old phone cord. Lithium. Sirius XM Channel 34. And streaming on the Sirius XM app.
Legendary LA DJ Richard Blade was instrumental in breaking new wave bands in the 80s, including Duran Duran, Depeche Mode, and Tears for Fears.
Hi, I'm Richard Blade. Hear me share memories of classic alternative music. Or listen to one of my many daily features, including Monday's Magnificent 7 Countdown or Theme Thursday.
Weekdays, 3 to 9 p.m. Eastern on First Wave Sirius XM,
Channel 33, or on the Sirius XM app.
Hi, I'm Joe Scarborough.
And I'm Mika Brzezinski.
You can catch MSNBC's Morning Joe right here on Sirius XM.
Join us every weekday morning as we talk to the people in Washington who matter.
From the Senate floor to the Oval Office.
Through every hallway inside the Beltway.
It's Morning Joe.
Morning Joe. Weekday mornings at 6 a.m. Eastern only on MSNBC, Sirius XM 118. Or listen to Morning Joe on the Sirius XM app. The Trunk Top
20. This is Trunk Nation.
Being exposed to that cracked my skull wide open.
With Eddie Trunk.
Sirius XM's volume.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Trunk Top 20. This time around, our third one ever on Van Halen. As I always say, in order to do these and have a lot of fun with them and engage everybody, you really got to do the mega bands of rock where everybody can chime in and everybody can get excited and get into it and knows almost all of the band's entire catalog. So as we work our way now into the top 10 in this second hour, a quick recap in case you're just joining us at number 20. The first 6 songs were in the Hagar zone. At number 20, Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. At 19, Judgment Day. 18, When It's Love. 17, Dreams. 16, Pound Cake. 15, Love Walks In. 14, Everybody Wants Some. Then we got into Little Dreamer, Dead or Alive at 12, Romeo Delight at 11. And now we get ready to reveal the top 10 of the greatest Van Halen songs, according to me. And tomorrow we'll hear from you on what yours are. At number 10, we go back to VH2 and a track that was always one of my favorites. It's short, it's sweet. It is a great opener to side 2 of the record. It's got a great drum groove from Alex in it. It's got a great open to the song. As a matter of fact, Ed, if you can take it right from the top, I'd love that. A little bit of Light Up the Sky. Well, what were you going to do? You going to do something different?
I wanted to play the solo.
All right, then do that. It doesn't matter when you're talking about the 10th greatest Van Halen song of all time. Doesn't matter where you take it. It shouldn't matter. It's all going to be greatness. So here it is at number 10 from Van Halen 2, Light Up the Sky.
Air guitaring right now. I hope you are too.
Or the drum part. Oh, now I'm air drumming. It's one or the other. Light Up the Sky from Van Halen 2, number 10. On the all-time VH list. As we move to number 9, we are going to stay again with Van Halen 2. And again, just I mean, there's so many things that made Van Halen great. The playing, the production, the singing, the harmonies, the obviously the guitar playing, all of the stuff. But what was so great about the Roth era of Van Halen in its heyday was the message of the songs, the fun of the songs. You know, he never got a lot of credit for being a great lyricist, but the way his lyrics were, they were so clever, they were so much fun, they so fit the spirit of the music. And this one absolutely sums that up for me as well. From Van Halen 2 at number 9, Somebody Get Me a Doctor. Let it rip, Ed. Oh. Right, chorus. Somebody give me a doctor. You better call up the ambulance. I'm deep in shock. Again, I know I've said it a lot of times, but I do want to reach across the console and strangle Ed for having to fade these songs at these points.
Jeez, man, come on.
I know you're just doing your job.
Yeah.
It's tough, though.
Listen, it's tough for me too, okay? I'm just as unhappy about this as you are.
When you're dealing with that level of greatness, it's tough. Somebody Get Me a Doctor, Van Halen 2. Once again. How many songs is that from VH2 now? Light Up the Sky, Somebody Get Me a Doctor,
and DOA.
DOA. Strong showing from the second Van Halen album starting at number 12 on the way up.
And wasn't Van Halen 2 thrown together like in a couple of weeks?
So a lot of these records were. Yeah. Absolutely were. I mean, they were done. That's what makes them, to me, so great, because they're live, they're real. I mean, these early Van Halen records, that's one of the big differences to me about some of the stuff with Hagar, because in the 80s, that's when a lot of the productions changed. That's when some of the new effects came in. That's when digital recording started happening. That's when you had samples, triggers, the keyboards, all that stuff that was happening. Some of that can tend to sound at certain times dated now. Never does it sound dated. Live guitar, bass, drums. That's why in my first book, I made the case that, to me, the early Van Halen albums are the equivalent of like American Led Zeppelin. And what I meant by that is, you listen to the Zeppelin records, they never sound dated. They never sound out of style. They never sound out of step with what's happening, because you're just keeping it simple. It's never going to sound wrong. It's never going to sound bad. It's never going to sound dated.
Wasn't the old story, I'm sorry to interrupt, the old story that what Ted Templeman would do when he was producing the band early on, because he wanted to capture that live feel, is he would disable the recording light, the big red light, he would turn it off or whatever, and just have the band play.
I don't know. I just know that it's magic what was captured on these records, because it's timeless in every sense of the word. So let's go to number 7. Or no, number 8. We're at number 8 right now. And this is the first time that we're going to go to an album that I always found this interesting, because guitar players tell me that for them, this is the quintessential Van Halen record. It's when Eddie started doing... Now, again, I'm not a musician, so I don't know the technicalities, but he started doing different tunings. He started doing some different sounds. There was a different thing going on. To me, still sounds amazing, still as great as anything he ever did. But guitar players, when I've talked to a lot of musicians themselves, they tell me that the Fair Warning album is the greatest guitar Van Halen record, which how could they not all be? But they tell me that record, for some reason, from technical standpoint, is like the record for a lot of them. For me, one of the great songs in Van Halen's history comes from Fair Warning. It starts off soft and builds into those great crescendos so many Van Halen songs do. The same, that attitude and swagger that all the great Van Halen songs have. One of my all-time favorites is Hear About It Later. Let's do it now, Ed, from Van Halen's Fair Warning. Well, he's fading it out before we get to that chorus, which, again, the great high harmony of Michael Anthony. And what's so great about Hear About It Later is the end. Ed, do we want to torture people with me doing it, or can you give them 10 seconds of that? I always love that part, man. That song has so many different cool parts to it. Hear About It Later. Fair Warning, my number 8 song. I think everybody knows the part I'm talking about, but if Ed can find it, it would be nice to just get a little taste of it.
You mean this, right?
Making, yeah, right here. Oh, pocket. Here it comes. So great. Hear About It Later at number 8 on the Trunk Top 20 Van Halen songs from the Fair Warning album. Number 7. We're staying with the same record. A little more Fair Warning action. Whoa, now what is happening here, ladies and gentlemen? In case you just joined us, the first 6 songs were all Sammy Hagar Van Halen songs. So if you just joined us and you're a Hagar Van Halen fan, you're like, oh, where's the love for Sammy? What, you came in late, folks. Plenty of Hagar love in the beginning of this list. 6 in a row, as a matter of fact. Ever since, we've been exclusively in the Roth zone. We continue there right now, staying with Fair Warning. I remember I was still in high school when Fair Warning came out. I saw Van Halen on the Fair Warning tour at Madison Square Garden. And again, because I was such a Kiss fan and also a huge Van Halen fan, but there was still that thing where anything that wasn't Kiss was a little bit of a threat to Kiss, even if I liked it, right? And by 81, Kiss was like a joke in the world of rock. A joke. I mean, they were dead and buried. But I was still carrying the Kiss flag very proudly and almost getting beat up for it in high school because of it, literally. But I had a teacher who, how cool is this? He was a history teacher, and he also wrote part-time for a New Jersey music paper called The Aquarian, and he was a big rock fan. And I'm still in touch with the guy to this day. His name is Bill Chamerka. And he was a huge Van Halen fan. He was my history teacher. And he would always talk to me about, he'd always rattle my cage because Kiss was so down and out at the time and couldn't even get a gig in the U.S. My heroes. And he was a Van Halen fan, and Van Halen were on top of the world at this point, just blowing up. Everyone's talking about Van Halen, 1981. I'm a junior in high school. And when Fair Warning came out, he crushed me on this because he's like, never forget, he pulls me into the classroom before the class started. And he goes, this is my teacher. That's how cool he was. He's like, you still want to talk about Kiss? Did you hear Fair Warning? Did you hear the Van Halen record? And I was like, Mr. C, yeah, I heard it. He's like, you listen to that first song on that record. Listen to that open to that song. That's it. That's Eddie laying down the gauntlet. Forget about it. It's over. He's the king. That's it. In front of the chalkboard, like lecturing me, like as if I failed history. But I aced rock from Mr. C. And I begrudgingly, I knew in my heart that it was great, but I was just like, this guy's never going to kill. But I remember the one moment was Mean Street. That's when he was just like, that's it. It's over. Fourth great album in a row. That's how the album opens. You kidding me? It's over. Eddie wins. That's it. I don't want to hear about Kiss anymore. That's it. So at number 7, for him and all the other Van Halen fans, including me, undeniable, even all these 37 years later, from Fair Warning on my Trunk Top 20, number 7 is Mean Street. And Ed, I think you got to take it from the top.
Well, a little bit in from the top.
A lot in. All right, so take it from the riff. You can't lose. Here comes the drums. Get them ready. Ed, do you think you could go right to the top and just give us a couple seconds there?
Oh, I'm sure I can do that.
Let's do that, because I just talked about the top. You got to play the intro. There it is. And now so you got it in reverse.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're not on an acid trip in 81. You just got that in reverse. But Mean Street, number 7 of the greatness that is Van Halen. So, again, quick rundown, catch up to speed, depending upon you just coming into the mix. And remember, if you miss any of the show, you can always get it on demand on the Sirius XM app. Get caught up, listen to it in its entirety. That's this show or any of my shows. Live 2 to 4, replay 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, on demand on the app. So, I'll give you a quick little rundown after the break, and we'll get into number 6. Again, remember tomorrow, your chance to sound off about this list, your chance to give me some of your own Van Halen highlights or maybe run down your list. What's going to happen is a lot of people want to run down their whole top 20. That's going to be really tough because that eats up a lot of time. So I'm not sure how we're going to handle that tomorrow. We'll figure it out when we go or as we go. And again, I think we're going to have some spillage definitely into Friday on this in terms of taking calls and the reaction. But we'll let you dig into it and at least give some people give their full 20s or just tell me what I shouldn't have had or should have had, which I'm sure a lot of you will be ready to do that. Let's hit a break. We'll come back. We'll recap and we'll get into the top 6 Van Halen songs of all time, as at least as according to me here on this Trunk Top 20. Coming back with more.
You're going to hunt somebody down. Wait a minute now. Somebody said, "Man, warning, Lord, Lord, strike that poor boy down."
Trunk Top 20. Eddie picks an artist and compiles his ultimate playlist. More after this. This is the Trunk Top 20.
Eddie Trunk back with you on this latest Trunk Top 20, our third ever, this time the much heralded, the highly anticipated Van Halen Trunk Top 20 as we count down the 20 greatest Van Halen songs of all time as chosen by me. We'll hear what you think tomorrow, live starting at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Trunk Nation here on Volume. Let me give you the rundown on where we're at now. We started very Sammy Hagar heavy. Have not yet heard from Sammy again since, but the first 6 songs on my list were from the Hagar era. Starting at number 20 from the Balance album, Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. Number 19, Judgment Day from For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Number 18, When It's Love from OU812. At number 17, Dreams from 5150. 16, back to For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge for Pound Cake. 15, Love Walks In. That, of course, from the first album, 5150. Then we got into the Roth zone, and we've stayed there ever since. Everybody Wants Some at 14. Little Dreamer at 13. DOA at 12. Romeo Delight at 11. Light Up the Sky at 10. Yeah, 10 at Light Up the Sky. 9, Somebody Get Me a Doctor. 8, Hear About It Later. 7, Mean Street. And now we get into the top 3, or the top 6 on the Trunk Top 20 of Van Halen. And we go back to Women and Children first. As I mentioned earlier and a few times, for me, if I had to pick a second favorite Van Halen album, it would probably be this one from 1980. So many great memories, such a great time in my childhood, such a great album that holds up remarkably well still today. Everything about it was killer. Of course, who could forget the poster of Roth shackled up to the fence inside of it? I mean, all the great moments of taking that record out of the sleeve and dropping the needle and hearing all those great tunes. So for me, one of my favorites from Women and Children First is the final song on the record. I love the quick 3-minute Van Halen rockers that just get right to the point and get into it. But I really loved when they had some different moments in the songs. And, you know, started and had these different sort of intros and breakdowns and different things like that. And, of course, I always loved the great harmonies. Who didn't? Much of them supplied by Michael Anthony. And on this song, Michael Anthony really shines on the high harmony. It was always one of my favorite VH songs. It's the final song on Women and Children First, track number 9, In a Simple Rhyme. I don't know where you're going to take this from, Ed, because there's so many great moments and passages in this song. So I'm just going to let you drop the needle, as it were, and let's hear what we get.
All right, let's see how this works.
You think you got the interest? Come on and take the time. 'Cause you know I wanna be yours in a simple rhyme.
Great bass sound in there. Oh, ain't life kind? Oh, so great. So great. In a Simple Rhyme, Women and Children First. One of the cool things about In a Simple Rhyme, and I don't know if you can find it, Ed, but the song ends with the great, you know, the really beautiful harmonies. Rhyme, which I can't sing. I'm sorry. But that great way to end the record, great way to end the song. And then there's a pause of, I don't know, 4 seconds. And then out of nowhere, this cool crunching guitar riff. Can you play that little end riff? I would love to know, if I ever had the chance to talk to anybody in Van Halen, which of course is one of my most wanted interview in the world is Eddie Van Halen, what that was. Because it's almost like another song. It sounded like the beginning or the riff that could have been another song.
Hey, wait, I found it.
But it's just tacked on the end of, and it's the way Women and Children closes. It's technically part of In a Simple Rhyme. Go ahead, Ed. There it is. That's how the record ends. Like, you've got this beautiful harmony, and then out of nowhere, you just get your head taken off with that gigantic riff.
Well, it's a nice little coda to the album.
Which would be, that's a song. I mean, I'm sure that was an idea for a song that didn't ever get fully realized or something, but it's just cool that they tacked that on the end.
Just an outtake that they decided to, hey, this will sound good here.
Yeah, yeah. In a Simple Rhyme, greatness from Women and Children First. Moving to number 5, we are now in the top 5 greatest Van Halen songs of all time. And, my gosh, I mean, much like Aerosmith Rocks when we did the Aerosmith list, you could have easily just made the entire first album, all 10 tracks from that, or 11 actually, be the 11 songs and then fill in the other 9. This song was such a staple of the Van Halen live set for so long. They even included this in the years when Sammy Hagar was in the band. Sammy did not sing many Roth-era songs while he was the lead singer in the band, but this one he did, because this is that classic, that iconic, the sing-along, hey, 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 dun, 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 dun. The open, just everything about it. And number 5, Ain't Talking About Love.
Yeah, you may have all you want, baby, but I got something you need. Oh yeah, you ain't talking about love. My love is right to the core. You're talking about love, just like I told you before. Yeah, before, you know you're semi-good looking.
Ugh, my love is rotten to the core. Just the Just, again, say what you want about Roth now or whatever, but that, I mean, needless to say, it's just everything about that is just brilliance. Just personifies everything that was just so great about Van Halen in their prime. Just if you read, and again, it wasn't long ago that I had the author of Van Halen Rising talking about their earliest years, Greg Renoff, on this show. And if you read that book and you realize how much they kept passing over Roth, and right up till the time they started recording that album, Ted Templeman considered replacing David Lee Roth because of his deficiencies as a singer. And when you listen to that, I mean, his voice perfectly captures that music, the lyrics, the message, the attitude. Just perfect. Ain't Talking About Love at number 5. At number 4, as we inch closer to number 1 on the Trunk Top 20 Van Halen songs, for the final time, we go back to Women and Children First. And when you talk about massive, gigantic riffs, I don't know if they get more massiver or giganticer than this. From Women and Children at number 4, Fools. And again, the beginning of this is so cool. When the guitar just, I mean, just amazing. Or the chunky middle section riff. Again, Ed, when we're in this zone, the greatness is so profuse from top to bottom. It don't matter where you take it because it's going to be great. So go ahead.
Let's drop the needle right here.
Ah! I mean, are you kidding me? I ain't about to go to school. I'm sick and tired of golden rules over a riff like that. That's rock. That's real music, folks. Not the nonsense pop garbage, auto-tune track bullshit they try to feed you. That's real music. Should be mandatory. Every child born have to listen to that. Be programmed.
Here is your standard
for the
issue
greatness
copy of
that
Van
is
Halen's
rock.
1, 2, Women and Children First.
I defy anybody that heard that to not be programmed into what is truly great music. Fools from Women and Children at number 4. At number 3, we're going back to album number 1, a song that somebody recently told me in the early days Van Halen used to open with, which is insane. It's the last song on Van Halen 1. There's no more superlatives I can give you on any of this stuff, folks, because it's all brilliance in every nook and cranny. My number 3 song is the number 11 song on Van Halen's first album that closes the record, On Fire. Go ahead, Ed. Oh, my God. My God. And let's not, we're talking a lot about DLR, and we're talking a lot, or I'm talking a lot about, of course, Eddie Van Halen and the drum fills and Alex and all that, and Michael Anthony's incredible harmonies. But do not ever diminish the greatness of that bass playing that was so perfect for that record. Those bass slides, that big sound. Oh, just perfection. 40 years old. That what you just heard is 40 years old. It blows the doors off anything you're going to hear today. still. Don't sound dated in any way, shape, or form. Number 2, I'm staying with album number 1. I'm staying 40 years ago. I'm staying in 1978. I'm staying with the Columbia House Record Club when I got that first record. Van Halen 1 at number 2, The Atomic Punk. Go, Ed, go. Are you kidding me? I was 14. Nobody rules these streets like me, the Atomic Punk.
And that scream.
The best. Oh, my God. 40 years? What sounds that good 40 years later? It's just insanity. Atomic Punk. My number 2 greatest Van Halen song of all time. There's only one left. There's so many, but there's only one left. What do I do? What's it going to be? I was tortured over this. This was the hardest decision for me. The number 1. So let's take a break and come back. I'll run down the list real quick, and I will give you my number 1 Van Halen song of all time and wrap up this Trunk Top 20 right after this.
Trunk Top 20. Eddie picks an artist and compiles his ultimate playlist. More after this. This is the Trunk Top 20.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Trunk Top 20 on Van Halen. As I mentioned, our 3rd Trunk Top 20. The first one was Aerosmith. The second one was Kiss. This is the Van Halen special. And we'll see what the next one will be. I'm sure we'll start getting suggestions immediately as to what the next Trunk Top 20 should be. Again, we have to, and you really have to make everybody involved and engaged in this, you really have to do major bands and bands that everybody knows and can get into their entire catalog. So I've got a push from a lot of people for Metallica. I got a push for a lot of people for AC/DC. There was a couple other ones that were thrown at me. Somebody had mentioned Guns N' Roses. I just don't think there's enough catalog there to do GNR. I really don't. There was a couple other... Zeppelin, of course, which could be a real good one. That was thrown at me. So we'll figure it out. I'm kind of starting to gravitate and like the AC/DC idea a little bit. Another band like Van Halen that is unbelievably, unfortunately, incredibly quiet. We don't know what they're doing. As I mentioned, the irony of doing this Van Halen 20 right now is this is maybe the biggest, this and the reaction show tomorrow is maybe the biggest celebratory Van Halen thing there is, sadly, on this 40th anniversary of the band. As I've been playing you tracks, many of them that you're hearing are 40, 38, 37 years old. And to me, what is so astonishing is how great, sonically, song-wise, how great top to bottom they still very much are. So who knows what the future, if anything, holds for Van Halen? We can only hope something. But until that time, we'll continue to celebrate these amazing records and this amazing legacy of music that we have to dig into. So Before I reveal my number one song, and remember, tomorrow is the reaction show. Tomorrow, live, the entire 2 hours, your chance to pull this list apart, tell me what I got right, what I got wrong, and give me your own lists or songs that should have been in here. Before I reveal number one more time, I'll count back for you where we started at number 20 almost 2 hours ago. At number 20, the lone track from the Van Halen album Balance, the final album with Sammy Hagar, a dark, chunky tune that I always liked a lot, Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. At number 19, from For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, Judgment Day. At number 18, When It's Love from OU812, the only track from that record that I included. At number 17, Dreams from 5150, the soaring in every way amazing vocals of Sammy Hagar. At number 16, Pound Cake. The only time, two albums gave us two tracks from Hagar Records. Pound Cake and Judgment Day, of course, from For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Pound Cake coming in at number 16. And at number 15, what, as you're about to learn from this list, stands as my favorite Hagar Van Halen song, Love Walks In. That's because I can tell you my number one is not from the Hagar years. So if you haven't been following that closely, what you're about to find out is that I opened my top 20 with 6 songs in a row from the Hagar era. And then starting at 14 all the way through number 1, all Roth songs. So a little more than a quarter of my Van Halen top 20, if we're breaking this all out, was Van Hagar. A little less than 3/4 was David Lee Roth. And if you were looking at this as a weighted list, as they are, that would mean that the 14 songs I put ahead are superior in terms of my opinion. So strong representation, if you're breaking this down, for the Hagar period, but much stronger representation for the Roth era. Let me finish out the list. So at 14, Everybody Wants Some. At 13, Little Dreamer. At 12, DOA. At 11, Romeo Delight. At 10, Light Up the Sky. At 9, Somebody Get Me a Doctor. At 8, Hear About It Later. At 7, Mean Street. At 6, In a Simple Rhyme. At 5, Ain't Talking About Love. At 4, Fools. At 3, On Fire. And at 2, Atomic Punk. Now, I wrestled greatly with what would be number 1. To be honest, the one thing I agreed on doing with this list, and the thing I kind of liked, was I did put all the Sammy stuff in one clump. And one of the reasons why I did that is not only does it just feel right that way, but as I've said so many times, and many agree with me, Van Halen with Sammy Hagar was a different band. A great band, but a different band. So it almost, to me, and I know that both eras needed to be included if you wanted to do that, so it almost felt right to me, because it is a different band, to give that its own section of the list. I didn't actually do that by design. I didn't intend to do that when I did this list. That just naturally happened. So I started out because I needed to get those Hagar songs in. I put them all at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, before I knew it, the rest of the way, I went Roth. And it kind of makes sense when you consider that myself and many others consider that to just be a different band. It has its own standalone section on my list, 20 through 15. The other thing you're about to learn about my list is that there is nothing from the Diver Down album, because song number 1 is not from Diver Down. And the reason for that, and I like stuff on Diver Down, but if you know anything about Van Halen, Diver Down was a record that even really wasn't even supposed to come out. They were supposed to be on a break at that time. And it was really a throwaway record. And by kind of a fluke, Pretty Woman became a hit, and it became a whole nother campaign for them. But Diver Down to me is not a bad record, but it's not an all-time great Van Halen record. It's 28 minutes long. It's 12 songs, many of them covers. And although I like the covers, I mean, Hang 'em High I like. Little Guitars is a cool song. It just, Secrets is cool. The cover, but it's just nothing that stacks up to the first four records. Nothing that I felt had to go on from this record just for equality purposes. So I did not include anything from Diver Down. And this may be a shocker to some, and this may be the most controversial thing of anything on my list. But when my top 20 is all said and done, I did not include anything from 1984. 1984, the biggest Roth Van Halen record, without a doubt. 1984 certainly has its moments for me, but 1984 does not stack up to the first four records to me at all. And here's why. When I first heard the 1984 album, I was working in a record store. Jump was the first single. When we just got done going through Atomic Punk and On Fire and Fools and Ain't Talking About Love and Mean Street, that's the Van Halen fan I was. That's the Van Halen I knew. And when I heard the synth, keyboard-dominated sound of Jump in the Roth era, it scared the hell out of me. And it was, for me, 1984 was not the greatest Van Halen period. I didn't like the keyboard direction that was being introduced. The tour, David Lee Roth completely got too full of himself, spent 10, 15 minutes twirling around a sword when he could have been playing 3-4 more songs. It all became crazy and self-indulgent and over the top, and it wasn't a favorite period of mine. And honestly, it's when everybody else kind of got into Van Halen as well, and the commercial aspects came into play, and it just didn't feel as special to me anymore. But when you go through 1984, Jump, just turned me off. Panama, great song, overplayed. Top Jimmy, Drop Dead Legs, one of my favorites, almost made the list. Had a hard time not putting Drop Dead Legs. Hot for Teacher, great song, overplayed a little bit. I know, big video, I'll Wait. I mean, again, there's the keyboards. I mean, it's a real poppy keyboardy song. Not what I wanted, not what I was comfortable with at Van Halen at that time. And then it finishes strong. Girl Gone Bad and House of Pain. But again, if you know anything, those are older songs that were redone. Van Halen did that throughout their whole career. And although I like them, I don't like them nearly as much as the other songs that made this list. So if there's any shocking takeaway here from my countdown, nothing from 1984 and nothing from Diver Down, and every other Van Halen record represented except Van Halen 3, which, again, I've said many times, Gary Cherone does not deserve the blame for Van Halen 3. Without You is not a bad song on that record. It's not going to make the cut in the top 20, but I do feel that, no, that is far from a great Van Halen record. I do like Without You, though. A couple other moments on that record. But objectively speaking, there is no way anything from that record is going to make it in the 20 greatest Van Halen songs of all time in any real logical fashion. So that was off the table. So the only records not represented in my 20 are Diver Down, 1984, and Van Halen 3. Oh, and A Different Kind of Truth. Not represented either. Which I actually came real close to putting a couple songs from that record on this list. I think A Different Kind of Truth is a way better record than it's given credit for. Tattoo was horrendous. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about something like As Is and Stay Frosty, and there's some real good moments on A Different Kind of Truth. I thought that record should have done a lot better than it did when it came out. You and Your Blues is a great track. The Trouble with Never. There's a lot of songs on that record I like. So I thought that record was Van Halen really kind of getting back to Van Halen a little bit. And of course, they mined some of their old songs on that one as well. But I came close. I came close to putting As Is was one that I love from that record. I came real close to including that. But again, I couldn't make the case for it being in the top 20. So now we get to my number one Van Halen song of all time. As I mentioned, I struggled with this, but the only logical place for me to go was album number one. The first three songs in my top 20 are from album number one. Album number one is the most heavily represented album, I believe, in my top 20, or pretty close to it, along with the other three records of the first four. And when I think about Van Halen, I put myself back as that kid, 13, 14 years old, getting the record in the box from the Columbia House Record Club, dropping the needle, hearing that first song with that car horn sort of sound. It encompasses everything about Van Halen in the first 30 seconds. The enormity, the sound of that whole open, the effect of it, the thumping Michael Anthony bass, the guitar ripping in, and you're running with the devil, baby. That's it. Everything about Van Halen. When I look at my top songs in my previous Trunk Top 20s, for Kiss, it was Detroit Rock City. Summed up everything about Kiss in that song. For Aerosmith, it was Sweet Emotion. Same thing. Very thematic. The bass, the open, the drama of the setup kicks into the killer riff, has a little representation of everything they would do in their career. I feel the same way about Running with the Devil. It's my number one Van Halen song on the Trunk Top 20. Ed, why don't you, because I talked about the setup, why don't you just take it from the top?
Will do. One sec. Here we go.
Like, you're already like, what the hell? And then this, what? Hi-hat. That's it. Gigantic riff. I mean, there's Dave announcing himself to the world. I mean, come on, how can you argue with it? I live my life like there's no tomorrow. I mean, come on. It is everything about Van Halen in 3 minutes. It is brilliant. That horn coming is like, here comes the train about to annihilate every other rock band. It's just, and it's amazing after 40 years. Running with the Devil, the number one Van Halen song that just set the stage in every way for everything, and that's why I put it at number one. So I ran them down for you. We'll put the list on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Eddie Trunk, eddietrunk.com, the website, at SiriusXM Volume on their social media. We'll get a nice graphic up so everybody can see it. Tomorrow, I will join you live starting at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Tell me that I'm a genius. Tell me that I'm an idiot. I'm sure I'll get a little of both. What was good, what was bad, what you liked, what you didn't, and what should be on the list and what wasn't on the list as we talk to you, and maybe some celebrity call-in lists as well as we get the reaction show of the Van Halen Top 20. Hope you enjoyed it. Love doing it. Thank you for listening. Trunk Nation, Sirius XM 106 Volume. I'll talk to you live tomorrow to get into it some more.
When I jumped out on the road.
The Trunk Top 20.